All right.
It's irritating.
So, Ade, what's your story? How did you come into the mental health space?
This is a story I like to tell so much. I watched my mom go through like a lot of stuff, of course, with the new community. I witnessed her try to commit suicide, like, actually. And growing up again, I made a bunch of friends. Yeah, interacted with people along the way. Some of his friends of mine committed suicide too. 2013 was the deal breaker for me. Like, I lost my mom now, and so I spiraled into addiction.
What's up, beautiful people? Welcome back to my channel. If you're returning, welcome if this is your first time. My name is Nibol, and this is Mental Health with Nibol, a place where we talk about our mental health challenges, things like depression, anxiety, post-traumatic stress disorder, psychology, and human behavior. And today, we're hosting Ade. Ade is a poet, a spoken word artist, a mental health advocate. He's so many things in one, so I'll let him do the introduction.
Nice.
Yes, Ade,
Nice.
welcome to our channel.
Thank you. Actually feels good. Yeah. My name is Ade, of course. Though the government name is Mandela Matur.
Okay. Okay.
And I'm a writer. That's always the first thing I introduce myself as. I'm a writer.
You've actually published a couple of books.
Published writer with four spoken word, poetry books, and professionally I'm a arts-based psychologist. Like, I focus on creative expressions and stuff to heal and all this kind of stuff. And yeah, that's just very briefly about me.
Okay, what do you do?
Right now, what I do is I work with a lot of young people, basically in mental health care.
Okay.
So I'm in South Sudan right now. I'm working in mental health care, focusing so much on community-based approaches to healing, like as communities in South Sudan and young people, how do you heal using your own approaches? So that's been my work for the longest now, like understanding these approaches from our backgrounds, from the communities, like things that have existed way before trauma was called trauma, 50 years ago after the Vietnamese War or something. Yeah.
Sure,
so
sure.
we had ways of that. So that's been my line of work for the longest now. Yeah.
Ah, okay. Do you have hobbies?
Yeah.
Okay, what do you do?
I like writing.
Ah, nice. Okay, constructive
And
hobbies, I
rap
see.
too, like.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, right. You didn't even know that.
I know. I know you do spoken word.
Yeah, but
You're a spoken word artist, so I
Exactly.
thought,
no,
okay.
that's spoken word and writing, and that is actually this is serious work for me. I put out like serious work, but rapping is like a hobby.
It's like the real. Ah, okay, okay. That's interesting. And I was going to ask, what do you do during your free time?
Same thing. I'm always just writing. Usually, different other things.
Okay. You have any icks? What things do you find irritating
Things
as an individual?
irritating
Or annoying? Could be mental health related or just generally.
Okay, there is this thing that people do.
Yes.
There's this thing that people like, especially when you're in public and somebody is like standing like behind, like very
Behind
close
you?
to you. But
Yeah.
like, let's say I'm sitting here right now,
Yeah.
and then somebody just comes and stand next to me, literally.
Too close?
Yeah, just very close, but they're not doing anything. They're just standing there like. And then I'm like, that really irritates me. And it happens a lot, by the way. It happens so freaking much, like with so many people.
Maybe it's people that like you. Are they female or?
Anybody really who
Okay.
mess me up. Yeah.
All right.
It's irritating.
So, Ade, what's your story? How did you come into the mental health space? Was this planned or did you find yourself here?
Yeah, this actually this is a story I like to tell so much. I think it's always been like there's always been these traumatic experiences that have been happening around me, like growing up. But like, of course, I would not know that these are traumatic experiences. I would not know that this is caused by that. And like from beginning, from watching my mom, like so I'll give you like a. So my mom is from a whole different community. She's from Yei, and my dad is from Bargazal. So like,
Okay.
so that back in the day to have someone from all the way from the other from
Side.
to marry the other side, it was very hard. And so yeah, growing up, I watched my mom go through like a lot of stuff, of course, with the new community that she's in, and she's trying to live up to their expectations, but then they're being ungrateful. They all this happened, and I witnessed her try to commit suicide, like, actually, and this by at this point I was like, what? I was like 8 years old, literally,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's too
So
much.
I saw that, and then of course, growing up again, I made a bunch of friends, yeah, you know, like interacted with people along the way. Some of his friends of mine committed suicide too, like
Sorry.
they fell victim, really, not like to use the word commit, but they died by suicide,
Yes.
basically, yeah. And that of course for me, I'm trying to understand like what's all this going on, what's all this, and then 2013 was the deal breaker for me. Like lost my mom now, and so I spiraled into addiction, you know, like but the addiction was kind of unique in a way because I was more addicted to prescription pills.
Oh,
So
okay.
because I needed numbness, so that's like I just wanted to be numb at that very moment, and it went on for a while, and then of course for me now to realize that I'm starting now, and I heard this lady who I was dating, and her mom was a psychologist and all of that, and
Ah, okay.
yeah, so whenever I go visit her, I find myself talking with the mother and all of that, and she's making me understand the emotions, like what's going on, and making me so I'm asking all these questions, and then from that day, like
Was she a Junubi
no,
mother?
she's a Rwandese woman.
Ah, because I'm thinking taking your boyfriend to your Junubi mother. Okay. Uh-huh.
Yeah, that day, that conversation we had that day, making me understand that look, we feel certain things because we do certain things because of underlying effects and stuff. So what is your underlying? Why? Of course, I'm a person who's a little bit like, okay, I've improved now. Like I was so much to myself. I don't talk to people anyhowly about how I feel and all that. And so having that conversation with her now and understanding that, and then I could not talk to her in a way. I just wanted her to keep talking because she's saying things that I'm feeling. Yeah.
Yeah, that you'd also like to hear.
Exactly. So I just wanted her to keep talking. But then she's so worried going nowhere, and that's where she asked me, "What do you do? You know, like that connects you with your mom?" Because she realized the biggest problem here is my mom in the picture and all of that. Like, and one of the biggest thing was writing. Like I would write letters to my mom to ask her to buy me stuff, literally, because she doesn't want me to speak to her because I'm very persuasive, and I'll
Oh.
convince anybody to give me what I want any day.
Oh, that's what you used to do with your mom
Yeah, that's
when you
what we
wanted
used to do.
something?
Yeah, she asked me to write it like in a letter because she doesn't want me to come and talk to her.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, so that became. She reminded me that the psychologist. She told me, well, if you used to write, then do that. Like you don't even have to talk to me. Talk to her directly, like through these letters that you've been doing. And now I have understood. I'm researching now mental health. I'm trying to understand traumas. I'm trying to understand depression. Like this all personal, by the way, I'm doing it on my own.
Yeah.
And, yeah, and until of course when I now go to college and all of that, and my father has a whole different agenda for my school. You know, like
Oh, yes, he
this guy
planned.
has to be an engineer. This, that, and all of that. Even applied for my school and all. And when I get there, I change my mind and I just go to a very small college, and I was like an A student, yeah, and you know, like I would go to any big university if I wanted to, and but then I've googled this college, amazing college, Colleges of Medicine of South Africa. Uh, it's just direct, like they work. It's they were teaching us direct courses. It's not even like you have to study medicine to go like straight specialization basically, and to me I didn't want to be a doctor like that too.
Yes, yes.
Because I'm an artist, yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't want to blur the two lines, and that's where that came in. I'm like, all right, I'm going to major in creative arts therapy, psychology basically, and that's where it all started for me. That's where it all started.
Wow, that's
Uh,
interesting. I didn't know that part.
uh,
Okay. So, what has it been like being in the mental health space ever since you started? You started in 20 when you got
yeah,
done with school and
yeah,
then
okay,
came to South
2017.
2017. What has that situation been like?
I mean, it's hectic, yeah. It's been hectic. It's been a lot of lessons learned. It's been experiences. I've created a lot of credibility with like people around me. You know, like and also the experience in a way was beautiful that I get to meet like you get to meet like names, people who are like oases. They're full of knowledge, things that I don't even know. You know, like
Yeah.
and have this conversation. But what has been worth basically like in working here, it's just the whole idea that it's a new it's not a new front file, but like it's new to introduce the advocacy of mental health
Yeah.
to a community, basically a community that is already living in denial, but then a community that is already been exposed to all sorts of
Trauma.
traumas before, but then they don't want to accept that these are traumatic experiences. So in the beginning, starting to work, and it was very hard, like especially like when you try to tell somebody about mental health, or they call it nafsiyat, like
Yes,
nafsiyat
yes.
sake, like we have bigger problems we're dealing with, and then they
Imagine.
don't understand this where all the bigger problems start. Yeah.
Yeah, that's where
So
they stem.
it was both helping and creating awareness. That's what it was for me. Like I'm providing tools that I know are practical for me, and I'm also making them aware too, like just basic knowledge, because that's where it all started for me. Just giving basic mental health awareness
So you were
to
starting with
the,
awareness with the people.
yeah, that's where it all started. Like just
How were you doing this? You're going to schools, you're going to community, what?
I was going to communities, because my whole idea, like I said in the beginning, is I wanted to understand the dynamics of our own personal healing as a community, as South Sudanese, and we've always been healing like this for a very long time. We've
Yeah.
thrived for a very long time. So how do I bring that back? Like how do I understand that? Like understanding that dynamic first, and then now being able to help in a way that it's a bit practical. I'm working with you. I'm not working against you. I'm giving them tools that are familiar with them, basically. Like these are not just these are not things that they'll be like, okay, this is foreign. This is yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
that's
yeah.
where it started for me. Being so moving around. So I have to first make them understand what is basic mental health, basically. Like, and that's what I was hired for by the company, the organization I
Sessions
was
you
working
worked
with.
with.
Yeah, yeah. So move to these communities, have conversations with them, local chiefs, local chiefs to soldiers to young people to elders and
So you
stuff like
sit
that.
down with them
Yeah, yeah.
and
We sit down and then we have discussions, basically, and the discussion always starts with, how do you call trauma in your language?
okay.
So once we establish that, like, what is trauma, then they will not understand what is trauma.
What do you mean by trauma?
Trauma, yeah. So I will like break it down into all of these simple simple symptoms. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll break it down into symptoms and the daily life, how it stresses them, their daily life. You know, like how when somebody has passed on, someone you love so much, you live with that pain. That is trauma. Like that pain, that constant nightmares you're having at night, or maybe you see them even though they're not there. You know, like, has anybody had this kind of experiences before? And they're like, yeah. And
Yes.
then now they start arguing. Usually, like that was one of the best experiences the first time. This was in Tauri. So they start having back and forth, like what the name of trauma is. I don't want to say it's that. I don't want to say it's that. And then, so it was so wholesome in a way that they wanted to understand it. Like that. So I asked, okay, now somebody you love
Has
has
that.
passed.
Yeah.
How do you deal with that? How do you make somebody deal with that? And then I bring it. I'm like, look, there is very different ways of like doing it. There's people go. There's something called therapy. There are people, but then as your community and all of that, how do you make this person go through this process, like that process of healing from loss, or even just at the funeral itself, like what do you guys do, like all these kind of things, and the responses were amazing. So it was just so that whole idea was the beginning for me. It was the beginning to understand that first let's make people understand first that
What trauma
yeah,
is?
yeah, we are having issues. We have these issues.
Yeah.
Once they accept that, then that's where it made it easier. Now, of course, a bunch of organizations are going there, and each organization has its own
Plan?
yeah, they have their own whatever
Project.
approaches.
Approaches, yeah, approaches.
They have a bunch of different approaches that might not work with South Sudanese, but then it becomes hard. Yeah.
No, but I think this is why what you're doing is important, because now you will be able to give them this manual of
This is how this community responds, and this is how it has been helping them. This is why it has not been working. That's a good job, Ade. Well done.
It's very interesting.
Yeah. So, what are some of the biggest challenges you've encountered so far? And maybe also, okay, maybe you could talk about the biggest challenges, then I can ask the next question.
I mean, one of the biggest challenges has been language for me. It's been language, and language in a way that, look, I want to speak to you. I don't want a middleman. I don't want a translator in the middle. I want to. There's a way I want to articulate my words, basically. So I might articulate them like that, and then the translator probably will. There's certain words that are not there in the local languages.
Or they may not actually understand what you're saying, and they say it the way they understand.
Exactly, which might change.
I've ever done translation for some. After somebody went to collect data, then they were speaking a language they didn't know how to speak. And then the translator knew a bit of English, so they were doing translation. But then some of it, now I had to come, okay, later, after that project is done, I got a gig to sort of listen to that, if what they did. And for some of them, the translators change the meaning of everything. Like somebody's asking what is sexual assault, and they're asking, they go and ask the other person what is prostitution.
You can see that.
So
that's that's a big challenge.
Issue.
Yeah, and the other one too was, again, you can help as much as you can, but then you can't make people understand a concept. Like you can't force somebody to feel a certain type of way, or to do something a certain type of way. So going to communities, let me give example, like in Turkeka, I can want to have, I can want to make these people understand, or let's say we have a group session and all of that, and there's always this counter ignorance, like where they hold back, they don't even want to to even talk to you or even engage in anything that has to do with that. And the thing is, sometimes some of the causes of the mental illnesses or the stresses, they come through, basically these are like traditional practices, and me saying that this is a harmful practice, it's causing you to have this, they feel attacked,
like what do you mean traditional?
Okay, like what would stress, like, let's say child marriage, child marriage easily. So when I use like this kind of things as examples, like you don't know the kind of trauma you bring to that child, it's going to traumatize them all their life. So you see this person's behaviors will change, that's all. But then now when you mention that, they take it back straight. We've been doing this for the longest. It happened actually in Turkey. Somebody, a chief asked me that. He asked me. He's like, look, Asa, you coming to tell us that this is wrong and whatever. This is something we've been doing since
for ages.
The start of this tribe. So how do you make me understand that? And at that point, of course, how am I even going to make him understand that? You see? Yeah. But then it's just making them understand that, like, look, there's harmful practices things we do that
are traditional, but that are traumatic.
Exactly. And so that has been a challenge for me, being able, and I think it brings it back to trying to understand community
approaches and work with the community. But then you can't work with the community when they're holding on to
certain
traditions, to certain things that are still really, really harmful and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So basically, these are like two of my biggest.
And I think in the South Sudanese community, the child marriage is common, and it's going to, especially for the people in town, might be easy to tell them, but people deep down, it's going to be a big fight. Yeah, they will not.
Exactly.
Yeah. So the next question, we're actually about to be done.
Nice.
So the next question is going to be, what are the what is the commonest mental health challenge young people face, and why do you think that is? Like, maybe you notice patterns. Most young people are like this, they're like this. Could there be could there be an explanation?
I mean, one that I've noticed so much is, of course, we're not even gonna cover it, substance abuse.
Oh,
Like
okay.
this like in South Sudan, it's crazy. Like almost every 5 people you meet, 4 of them are abusing substances. Literally, like 4. These are my own. Don't quote me on that. But yeah,
It's okay. We
but
understand.
it's
very
that
common.
bad. Like yeah, it's the most common right now. And then the other one, of course, which is PTSD. Like and PTSD goes all the way. You know, like so from like the war to all these kind of things, the gunshots and all that. Like I feel this is a very common illness, and they don't even know that I have PTSD. You know, like
Yeah.
they will not understand that until you like start to break it down, mention things like these symptoms,
Symptoms that
and then they
happen.
will start relating to themselves like, oh, this happens to me a lot, like every single time, and then you understand, and then of course, depression is a very common one, which is it's just there. Like everybody is depressed. Like we feel it.
We have so
We
much
see it in the behavior.
pressure.
You see it like you will have a conversation with a young person, or like you will even greet them, and it's not from the illness part, but like it's all sweaty, very anxious. Like you know, you're living on edge. You know, they just feel like they're on edge and stuff, and it's unfortunate because they don't do so much about it. Like you know, like if somebody starts showing these traits of depression and stuff, of course one thing they're going to do, they're going to abuse substances, and then
Yeah.
so it just becomes a cycle. And once they see and this happens a lot in South Sudan, once you see a family member sees their young kid or like their brother or their cousin is abusing drugs and alcohol and all these other things and all of that, they lock him up. You see?
Imagine you take him to prison.
Yeah,
Police.
yeah, I'm gonna let him stay some time in jail and stuff like that. But then, what is my fault? Like you arrested me because I'm sick. Like I'm ill. I have a problem. But then it's been normalized. Like they just lock them up.
Wow.
So it's one of it's some of the biggest issues right now, and it's I don't know. The ministry tries to do its work, of course. Like Juba Teaching Hospital has a ward, but
A mental health ward.
yeah, but then that word is not going to. Well, it's like about 8 beds or whatever. It's not going to.
Help the whole
Yeah,
country. But
and
then also even the beds, I think, is for psychotic people.
yeah,
Not even
usually for
psychotic people because they're in jail.
epilepsy.
Oh,
Yeah,
yes.
it's one of the biggest cases right now in even in the community. Some of this, like in Mundarilan, in Terekeka, that happened. Like they've kids having epilepsy, and then they're very confused what this is. But then they will be rushed to take them to a traditional healer and all this kind of stuff. Yeah, which I don't have a problem with, because traditional healers somehow stand their ground in the communities. They've
They
been
play a
trusted
role.
for a very
Yeah.
long time. Yeah, so what should be done is seeing how you work with these people the community trusts.
Trust,
Like
yeah.
what do they do? Like why do they trust them? Like how can we use them instead of abuse them in a way, or like
Or
stigmatize them? Yeah. Instead of
demonizing them.
Exactly. Yeah, you demonize them. So that idea for me was an epiphany. I'm like, they trust these people, but then I would come as a medical professional and they're not going to trust me. So
If anything, people actually associate death with hospital. Like, oh, you're taking this person, they're not coming back. Oh, you're doing this, they're not.
That kind of stuff.
Wow, that's interesting. But I also understand PTSD because of our war history and all that stuff that have been happening. So I get that. But then do you think the substance abuse and the depression, what would we link that? Is it,
I think
what
it's
is?
just the daily life, you know, like from family, you know, like there's a lot of pressure from families
Yes.
and stuff like that, to you probably not having a job, to you probably, if there's some young people who have families and stuff, like their own families, and they cannot take care of them and all of that.
Yeah.
Some of these people who are also depressed, these are like young people who've been put into the army, and like forceful
stressful,
recruitment.
yeah.
You know what I mean. You spend years like in the bushes training and all this kind of stuff, and you don't get that proper understanding, or you're numb. Like your feelings are numb and all this kind of stuff, basically. So it's literally in the everyday life, like.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. And our second last question is: any proud moments or beautiful highlights you've experienced so far in your mental health journey?
Oh yeah. Yeah. There's these kids that I've been working with for the past
Okay.
8-10 months. Yeah, you met them last time.
Oh, yes,
at the
yes.
session.
Yeah.
And that for me, I feel like it's been a moment for me. You know, like 'cause throughout the whole year, I've done a lot with like different people. I've had conversations with a bunch of different people. We've done trainings with I've had awareness sessions. I've gone to communities and all of that, but people are vague. You know, like people hold back a lot. People don't see the value of what is being done and all that kind of stuff. And being able to work with these kids with real, in the beginning, first sessions used to be hard because I'm trying to make
Build
them
trust.
understand exactly that kind of stuff, until it reached a point where one of one of the one of the kids inside the room, literally, we had a retreat in Tarkeka, and she's told the whole group, because there was now newer people and all of that, about how she's had anger for her dad, like with her dad for the past 18 years of her life. Doesn't talk with her father. They live in the same house, literally.
Okay.
They live in the same house, like.
And they don't talk.
Does not greet her. She doesn't greet him. You know, like it's just been made normal now. Like, so she say that, like, I'm always very angry. I'm very angry at him. So we had a session sometime back on anger and regulating emotions and all this kind of stuff. And so during that retreat, she actually says it, like, in front of everybody. Today I said hi to my father.
That's sweet.
That felt so good. Like, I had goosebumps. You know what I mean?
I know.
Yeah. So like today I said hi to my father. He was surprised. And I didn't just stop there. We even had a conversation. I made him shy. Like, I went and brought shy and stuff like that. And that to me, like, it felt this in real time here. This is like a real time feedback, you know, like somebody who's going through that, and they can see the change directly, you know, like, because at the end of the day, it's all about practicality, and that's what I always try to do. Like, we can have conversation, but then it will take a while to change. Of course, you're not going to see change instantly, but then that change,
baby steps.
Exactly. But then what I love about it is the fact that I want you to leave this space at least feeling a little bit different from how you
came.
Here.
Yes.
That is the little change that I'm looking more at, and that happens every single time, and I feel like it's beautiful. It's beautiful.
Yeah, I know. That's also very beautiful.
Yeah.
That experience.
Yeah.
I hope her and her dad are okay now.
I hope so, yeah.
Okay, so our last question is, what should Junubin do differently for a better mental health outcome? I mean, you've worked with a lot of young people, you've worked with communities, and you've seen for yourself. But then I'm sure you've also
seen maybe there's certain things we're doing wrong and certain things we're doing right. If we wanted to improve the general mental health condition of South Sudanese, what would we have to do differently on on a practical level? They're telling someone go to therapy, and therapy is like $100 a session. So that may be, so practically, what's that thing somebody that's watching this video right now can do at home and can actually help them?
Okay. Yeah. Well, that's a very hard question. Talk about, but the thing is, it's not even about how to improve it. Like, we want like improvement with our mental health, but being not aware, like, of the emotions. And I won't generalize over most of us. We're not aware of how we feel in our bodies. So the first thing is that I think would really be important is first making South Sudanese understand that, look, mental health is a very big problem. You've had people commit suicide. It was not Kujuru, like that person was going through something. Yeah, you've seen your close family members and stuff like that stressing. They're shaking. So being able to understand that first, that look, this is a problem we need to work on. That is the step of everything for me. Like, that is where I feel like this is where it should all start. Like, if we had to look at it at a general sense, but if it's like an individual, anybody who's watching out there, like, it's about you here, like, at this moment, and it's about like finding that peace with yourself, which sounds cliche to say, yeah, like it sounds super cliche. Like, you'll be like, hey, I'm finding peace with myself, but what does that actually look like? That look like understanding yourself, like understanding what happens to me. Like, oh, at this point, at night I won't sleep, but then why am I not sleeping at night? It's a recurring pattern. It's every night. Like, I'm having sleepless nights. So understanding the root cause, like what are the problems I'm going through right now. You can't fix all the problems, like, but you can manage. Yeah, you can manage some of these problems, like work around them. Don't let them control your life and all that kind of stuff. So being able to understand that I don't sleep at night because I'm always thinking of where I'm gonna get money the next day. But then you getting money the next day, for unless you know where you're gonna get it. But if you don't know where that money is gonna come from, it's out of your control at that very moment. You can get the money, you can work towards getting that money. That is something you can do. But then being able to stress because you don't have a certain thing, and because you can't get it, it's out of your control. So what are other different alternatives? Like, what would I do different to get to this and stuff like that? So this practicality is what I'm talking about. Like, understand, when I go to public, I'm always on my phone. I don't want to interact with people but why is that? It's because I had an experience with people and all of that. So understanding this, like, why do we feel a certain type of thing? I started in the beginning that we are not aware. We don't recognize what happens in our body. So bringing this here, being able to recognize that, like, this is something that's happening in my body, and it doesn't just happen out of nowhere. It happens because of a reason. So understanding these reasons, like, you don't need nobody to make you understand it. You yourself, literally, you can.
Has to come from within.
Yeah, it's a self-conviction kind of thing. It comes from within, basically. And once that is, and then, of course, this is something I say every time, and it's very important. I'm trying to actually venture into working more into mental health and peace building, because what the peace you cannot have peace in a space where the people themselves are not having that peace with themselves, like.
Yeah.
And what the
you can't have peace with other people
Exactly.
if there is no peace within.
Exactly. So being able to see the communities going through whatever they're going through and stuff, it's the mental health these mental issues and all of it, it started from, like, that division of the social fabric, because there's no peace. Yes, we know that, but then why? It's in this. It's in the details. Me not talking with New Ball, like, yeah, like, it's my father making me understand that person there is not a good person, and I don't know. They didn't do anything to me, and then I'll just grow to hate them. Like, it's just in that simple thing. So I feel these two work together. There can never be a peace building when you're not when the mental health situation is not taken care of, basically. Yeah. So that is how I would fix it.
That was a long answer, but I hope you guys have picked out a point or two in what he said. And yeah, it was beautiful hosting you, Ade. Thank you for sharing the experience with us. And remember to subscribe, like, share, send out all this to everyone that you know. It's Ade. Come on, people. Yeah, Ade, do you have any last words before we say bye to people?
Nice.
Closing remarks?
Again, it was amazing, like, literally, like, having this conversation. And the last thing I would always say is, like, look, man, not everything that happens in your life you can control it. You cannot control everything that happens in your life, and we need to accept that. Like, we need to understand that there are things I can control and there are things I cannot control. I use that a lot because it changed my life personally. I use that because it changed my life personally. So do
what you feel is in your control, and don't stress over something that is not in your control. Eventually everything always falls in line. Like I always say that everything falls in line eventually. Just being able to accept this is life, this happens, and time is not mine, but I can control time, but
Whatever
I can do
happens.
things in
Yeah.
that time, basically.
Yeah,
That's what I'm talking about. So it's, but you guys can also follow me.
Oh, by the way, Ade is on. You what's the title of your book? Of your books?
So the first one is Lemonade Love.
Ah, okay. Lemonade Love.
The second one is Passionate Elixir. Passionate Elixir is a collaboration with a guy called Asif. Erotica. It's an erotic book.
It's out.
Yeah, it's been out
I
since
like
2019.
erotic. I will look for it. Uh-huh.
And then Stranded Lullabies is my third
I've
one.
seen Stranded
It's
Lullabies.
actually one of my most successful books. You guys can get it on Amazon. Stranded Lullabies, and then the most recent one is If Men Cry, and this is the book that was exploring my own masculinity, like what it looked like being raised by my family, my community, and what were the lessons they taught me as a masculine man, like what am I supposed to look like. So, and I gave out that experience in poems, basically. So, yeah,
How is that going now? The book.
Oh yeah, that's the thing. It got criticized a lot. It's actually, If Men Cried was one of the most controversial for me, because people were like, African men,
Don't
for how long
cry.
They cry again when they turn it into some slavery, and that's trauma too. Like holding back to something that is not even affecting you, but you want to understand. You want to tie everything around
Back
that.
to
Yeah,
it.
that's
No,
a
but
trauma,
there's a lot of, especially Junubin, there's a lot of issues around a man shouldn't cry, a man should be this. So when you come and say you should,
This is this. Yeah.
it's very controversial.
And that is where the problem actually came in, like being able to try to have that conversation, and then people are like, you're making being man weak and all that. And I'm like, no, I'm not telling anybody to do anything. I'm just telling you guys my story. You know what I mean? Like, it's just my story.
No, and you see, usually, okay, I don't know if we're making this extra long, but usually when they say Junubin men shouldn't be emotional, or we're not emotional people, and then somebody gets angry and they shoot at their wife. Those are emotions
These are
too.
emotions.
It's just that they want the aggressive,
they-
terrible ones, and they feel like crying is for women.
That's what we get told.
Yeah, so you guys should get when. But you said Stranded Lullabies.
All of them are on Amazon. Like
Okay.
I don't, unless you're in South Sudan, you can buy physical copies. But
How much a physical copy?
12,000 SSB.
12,000 SSD. I can take a few copies to you, G, in case you get clients.
Perfect.
Then
I would
we'll
love
see
that.
what you do.
That would be amazing. Yeah.
All right. So people have a
Thank
lovely,
you.
one, because I don't know what time you're watching this. But thank you for watching. You can follow Ade on his social media.
Yeah. Ade Tha Truth, like that with the THA. So Ade Tha Truth on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram, on YouTube. Like so.
On
Ade Tha
TikTok?
Truth. Nah, I don't have the app on my phone.
All right. Thank you,
you.
everyone. Have a lovely time. Goodbye.
Bye.